Hello everyone, my name is Hasiba Hafizi. I'm a student at American International School, and recently me and my partner called Sarah were assigned to do research for our genetics class. We were given topics to choose from and then raise awareness on the topic, and also just in general share our knowledge with people. We picked the topic of homosexuality and genetics. We're trying to see if homosexuality is related to genetics or if even homosexuality has anything to do with genetics, or if it's a choice of your own to be gay, straight, bi, and extra. Keep in mind that this is not our own thoughts or feelings towards this topic, but rather a scientific presentation where all the information comes from professors and scientists who have done experiments to prove their point. And yes, we do have a position in this topic, but I'll be talking about our position at the end so that you also have a chance to choose a side and see which one you agree with. So, yes, I'll be talking about both sides and I'll be talking about the history, how it developed, who discovered it, and also what would they do in the future with homosexuality and genetics. Now, let's move on to the first thing that I want to talk about is what is homosexuality? I want to identify this term because you'll be hearing it out a lot throughout the presentation. So, what is homosexuality? Homosexuality could refer to both attraction or sexual behavior between the people of the same sex. Or, in easier words, you could say it's when a girl has romantic sexual attraction towards another a woman. And also, it goes the same for boys and men. The history of it. Homosexuality has been practiced for thousands of years, and the idea that genetics may play a role in it was put in spotlight in 1993 when Dean Hammer, who is a scientist at the US National Cancer Institute, and his team found links between DNA markers on the X chromosome and male sexual orientation. And yes, this is him, Dean Hammer, the scientist. So when did it all start? Scientists then discovered two gene variants that were more common in gay men than straight men, applying to the evidence that homosexuality is at least particularly genetics as studied in the early 90s said so. And moving on next is how is it related to genetics? Alright. The genes identified in 90s were on the 13 and 14 chromosome. It's the first time ever scientists have identified specific genes, not just a region on the chromosome that could be correlated with sexuality. The genes were found by comparing the DNA of 1,077 gay men with DNA of 1,231 straight men, looking for variations as small as a single nucleotide. Yeah, nucleotide. Oh, sorry. Alright, so let's go a bit deep on the topic on the two chromosomes, which is 13 and 14. So the gene on chromosome 13 called SLITRK6 is inactive in a region of the brain called the diencephalon. That same region contains the hypothalamus. In 1993, Dean Hammer created an uproar with his discovery of what he calls gay gene. Really, it's an area on the X chromosome known as XQ28. Keep in mind that we would be talking more on the gay gene further with our presentation, but for now, let's move on to our next topic or slide. They also found another gene that may also influence sexual choice that have been discovered through genetic investigation in mice. That gene is called Fucus mutarotus. I hope I pronounce it correct. Let me try again. Mutarotus, yeah, which was connected to sexual inclusion in a study that they found in 2010. So basically, fucus is basically an enzyme that involves in anormic conversion of L-fucus into proteins. So female mice with the gene knocked out were attacked to female smell and choose to mount female over males. Why did they did that so? Because mice and mouses have basically a sensory neuron that's called TRPC2, which is in their brain, and this basically functions in the recognition of chemicals that are released by one member of a species to incite a response in other. Male mice lacking TRCP2 are no longer aggressive against other male mice, and rather imitate sexual behavior with both male and female. So now I'll just kind of like briefly talk about what they discovered and what have they done. So what exactly did the scientists discover? The scientists who were involved in the study found by deleting one gene, the one that controlled the release of an enzyme called fucus, In female mouse, they would reproduce female, adult female that behave like male. Female mice lacking the gene avoid male mice. They wouldn't let them mount and stop sniffing their urine, and instead they try to mate with other females. You might all be wondering, why did the behavior of the mice change so drastically? So fucus apparently caused development changes in the brain region that controls reproductive behavior. The scientists believe that without the enzyme, the female brain cannot filter out estrogen, so it is exposed to extra level of hormone, which determines masculinity in mice. And that's the reason why their sexual preferences change. Alright, does this mean that there's a genetic link to does this mean that there's a genetic link to homosexuality in humans? No, not necessary. Researchers did not find a gay gene, and there is no direct connection between mouse brain and human brain. Estrogens, which is the masculinity in the brain of the mice, but in humans is testosterones that have the same effect. Okay. How may this gene influence same sexual behavior? Some of the genes from men indicated in Ghana studies are associated with olfactory system, a finding that has a parallel to the work in mice. Males with a genetic condition called androgen insensitivity syndrome could develop female genitalia, and are usually brought up as girls despite being genetically male, with an X and Y chromosome, and they are mainly attracted to men. This suggests that the testosterone is needed to masculinize, or else that child will grow up to desire men. And the same goes for girls as well. The condition they have is kind of hard, so I will just put it out in here.
Adrenal hyperplasia.
I hope you could hear that. Yeah, so it's basically a genetic condition that are exposed to unusual high level of male hormones like testosterone, which in the womb, and then they may masculinize their brain and increase the odds of lesbianism. And now moving on. So as I said before, we will be coming back to talking about no gay gene. So genes alone cannot be used to determine an individual's sexual orientation. A new study found out that only 5 out of hundreds of thousands gene varieties occurred somewhat more often in people who have had same-sex partners. This suggests that human sexuality is influenced by a complex mix of genetics and environmental factors, according to the researchers. Research have shown that genetics is partly involved in sexual orientation, but not been able to identify specific involved genes. There was a certain studies which involved more than 490k participants, and they only found 5 genetic varieties that were more common in the subject, and they also reported that they had same-sex sexual partners. The researchers emphasize that although certain genetic varieties stand out on a group level, genetics cannot be used to predict an individual's sexual preference, and that different environmental and social culture factors also have a role. So you can't say that fully a person's sexual preference is based on their genetics, because it's really not. There's tons of things, and it's a very complicated topic. It has tons of things that are related to it as well, and you can't really say that one thing affects the whole preference. Alright, now let's move on to what is called sex reassignment surgery. Gender reassignment surgery is also known as sex reassignment surgery. It's usually to help people with gender dysphoria adjust to their preferred gender. People who suffer from gender dysphoria often believe they were born in the wrong gender. And surgery is usually the last step in the physical transformation, but it's not a decision to be taken lightly. Many healthcare providers demand that the patient be medically diagnosed with gender dysphoria and seek therapy before undergoing the transformation. Hormone therapy is normally the first step for patients. Hormone may suppress the biological's gender secondary sex characteristics, make them look more like their preferred sex. Women, for example, take androgens and begin to grow facial hair. To appear more feminine, men take estrogens and anti-androgens. So, how is sex reassignment surgery related to genetics? The anatomy of a person is changed during sex reassignment surgery. After surgery, a person's identity as a male or female does not alter. It also has no impact on their genetics. So far, we know genetics cannot be changed. Each person is born with a collection of genetics instructions wrapped up in chromosome. The direction will assign in determining the hair color and the eye color. Sex traits may also be influenced by genetic instructions. The presence of a female or a male body part is demanded by a person's chromosome. There are the chromosomes presented in a normal human. Every human has 23 pairs. The sex chromosomes are the last pair of chromosomes. In many cases, a person's sex chromosomes are either XX or XY. Female body parts are common in people that have two X chromosomes. Male body parts are found in people that have one X and one Y chromosome. And it's impossible to alert a person's chromosome once they're born, since chromosomes are found in all the cells that make up your body. And as you see here in the image, there's a female chromosome, and you can see their sex chromosomes are XX, and for a male chromosome, their sex chromosomes are X and Y. Now, moving to next. So the future, there's this new robotic system that have potential to improve outcomes and reduce complication for transgender women. So as you can see from the name and the title, that it's another surgery a new robotic system basically, that will help kind of improve the outcomes and make less complication for a woman to transform from a female to a male, much better, and they will be much less risky. But if you want to know more about this topic, please make sure to go down in the link and go to our website and see our webpage, and you'll find more information about this. Alright? Just like everything has pros and cons, so does sex reassignment surgery. The pros is that since having sex reassignment surgery, the patient is able to experience a sexual life. There will be less mental tension because they're happy with the body they are. That was their desired body. And also next is that this result will make them much happier and be much happy. And third is that depression, anxiety, and panic attacks will all be reduced. Also, a person will be achieving their own desired physical appearance. Patients are normally found to be less gender dysphoric after undergoing gender reassignment surgery. There are fewer cases of anxiety, depression, and other mental illnesses than there were previously. And now the cons. The person who has sex reassignment surgery to change their gender from male to female or the otherwise would not be able to reproduce. Hematomia may be present. And for at least 4 to 6 weeks, the patient must be given a lifestyle restrictions, not to do what and to do what. The pros and cons. And now that brings us to the end of my presentation. And so as I said before, that I will be talking about my own position in this topic. And also, before going to that, I want to give a summary. So in 1993, researchers discovered a stretch of DNA on the X chromosome they believe to be linked to male homosexuality. In the years since, the concept of gay gene has been a source of debate with both the scientific community and the general public, inspiring over larger followed-up studies over the years. The study did not find a gay gene, and frequently human biology does not work like that way. Like personality and other complex human trait, sexual behavior is influenced by a mix of genetic and environmental factors. And of all the genetic varieties found in the study that influence same sexual behavior, only a handful, to be exact, were only 5 were statistically satisfied in their association. Just give me a minute. With their association, they had both. And yeah, so as you can see, that genetics is not really a big part of it, of homosexuality. It's just a small part of it, and a lot of other things do influence sexual preference and everything. So it's a debate that still goes on, since the study is still going on. A lot of researchers and scientists are still trying to see and find more evidence and solid evidence that will help them say that there is maybe a gay gene or something that does make you prefer other gender. But so far what we know is that there really isn't, and there's a bit evidence, but it's not a solid big evidence that you could completely say that genetic is involved in homosexuality. And yeah, that will bring us at the end of our presentation. Please make sure to go see our webpage. It will be linked in the description below. So please check that out. And thank you for listening, and I hope you learned and understand something. And yeah, once again, thank you, and see you next time.